Suicide's never easy, but it's in the news today, with the Law Commission saying we need to change the way suicides are reported. It said the method in place of suicide shouldn't be revealed, but calling it a suspected suicide was okay. But for some, actually getting the message out there that people are struggling is vitally important.
For example, farmers. Right now, many are facing, as you might have seen in Jim's forecast and wrap for March, the possibility of a drought in some parts of the country. And as Matt Chisholm explains, they're not the sort of people who readily ask for help.
He was born for it. His Takapau Hawke's Bay family have been working this land for 100 years.
Yeah, I was the only son of an only son of an only son, so yeah, I think that was always the plan.
Knocking on the door of the big 6-0.
I live for it. It's my work and it's my hobby.
Cowcocking David Hunt still seems like a pig in the old proverbial.
Well, I'm a nutter. I'm officially belong to the Nutters Club, so who knows, anything's possible.
And the self-proclaimed nutter credits the latest generation for keeping him alive.
Did you have lunch?
A couple of years back, the farming career David loved so much and the hole it put him in all but killed him.
I couldn't function at all. I couldn't work at all. I didn't drive for 4 months. I don't think it could have been any worse and survived. It would have been just in a moment of sheer frustration. I might have just turned the wheel of my ute or my four-wheeler and just had an accident, I suppose.
Did you ever think you'd lose him?
Yes.
David first became unwell in 2007.
You know, I'd go to a doctor and they'd say, maybe give you some tablets, and I'm tough and I say, no tablets, no tablets.
He thought he got himself right before anxiety and panic attacks rode in on the black dog that came with the 2010 drought.
I basically flew off the handle, became completely uncontrollable, and had to get other family members in to sort of settle me down, which was, I guess, the beginning of the end for me.
It was really hard for our youngest son and I. I don't think people realise how hard it is on families.
If you're lost and alone, or you're sinking like a stone, carry on.
David wouldn't have been alone. You probably already know New Zealand doesn't fare well in suicide rates. 16th poorest in the OECD. Those living in the country worse still. In 2010, for example, our rural folk were 43% more likely to kill themselves than those living in urban areas.
You know, 5 farmers a year die on quad bikes, which is 5 too many. 25 farmers a year take their own life, and no one that's checking on farmers or running a campaign on mental health in the rural sector.
David reckons it's time farmers manned up and started talking, and he's taking the lead with a little encouragement.
Well, you had to twist my arm. I didn't ring you.
I said there's more to life than rush.
It took David 3 years before he found a doctor that got him back on the straight and narrow.
No disrespect to doctors, but it just seems that a lot of doctors don't understand the illness, or perhaps take it too lightly, give you a prescription and send you on your way.
And while a good doctor and counsellor were key,
men don't do counselling, let alone farming men don't do counselling.
It was the love of his wife and family that he needed the most. What stopped you from doing it?
Oh, you may meet her tonight. This little angel just happened to turn up about the same time, and she's called Soraya. It almost seemed like it was meant to be to get David up and going.
Sometimes wonder if it's good or bad, but no, he is back, yeah.
Back enjoying the good things.
Give me reasons to believe.
Like granddaughter Soraya, the little angel that helped save his life.
I'm sure one day a mother will elect to go and do something else, and as we said to her, that's fine, but you're leaving her behind.
Oh, lovely. Good on David speaking out, and what a cutie she was. Now, with me is Jeanette Maxwell from Federated Farmers. Good evening, Jeanette. You're a farmer yourself. So tell me, you know firsthand, I guess, the pressures that farmers face. Talk me through them.
So there's all sorts of things for farmers to face each day. There's the day-to-day running of the property and caring for your animals if you've got animals on your farm, or looking after your paddocks, checking on staff for those who employ staff, managing your budgets and your money and everything else, and environment plans, and and you know, your family and all the family pressures and everything. That's just something farmers do every day.
What about that unpredictability side of things? I mean, we heard tonight how dry the weather is at the moment. Is it hard for them to, I guess, for you to have that control?
Oh, absolutely. The weather, of course, is one of the hardest things for us to predict, and we're very grateful for the Jim Hickeys of the world who help make our planning a bit better where they can. And it's the unpredictable things like droughts or floods or big snows for those, or big winds, or whatever happens, that you've got to manage your way through. And if you're feeling well in yourself, and that's physically as well as mentally, you cope a lot better. But if you're feeling a bit down or a bit down in your health, you'll manage your way through, but it adds to the stress level.
We've heard Sir John Kirwan a lot talk about the hard man sort of mentality in rugby. Do you think farmers suffer from that a wee bit?
Oh, not a wee bit. I'd say farming men and farming women suffer from it really badly. You know, we'll happily tell you about how the family is, what the children are doing, what might be happening on the farm. The very last thing we're going to tell you is how we're feeling.
I know, Jeanette, David Hunt in the piece we just saw said to Matt Chisholm off air that it's okay for him now because he's part of the mental health system. So, you know, he's checked on, he has regular appointments, but the hard part is actually getting them into the system. How do you make sure that happens?
It's actually really hard to get them into the system, and I think one of the things we need to look at is that, like with our Federated Farmers Life's a Bitch campaign, was giving people an opportunity to have a talking point, and so that if you noticed if somebody changed, because sometimes they don't change very quickly, it's really subtle, but actually even if you spot your neighbour or your partner or your son or child or whomever it may be, actually being brave enough to say, are you okay? Do you need to talk? Let's have a cup of tea. You know, maybe go and do something off farm. Or if you feel that you can't do that, go to your GP or Rural Support Trust or somebody who could help, you know, start that conversation that might help that person.
Okay, Jeanette Maxwell, thank you for your time this evening.
Good on David for speaking out too.
Yeah, absolutely. He seemed like a lovely guy. But do you reckon that farmers get a bit of a rough time in society? And what I'm talking about here is I'm sure most people would have heard farmers said, oh, bloody rich farmers. You hear that saying quite a lot.
Yeah, lots of people say that. Go to the AMP show. I used to go to the AMP show in Christchurch, buy the combine harvesters and the tractors, and they'd buy the utes, and they'd always complain the interest rates were too high, they're too low, or there wasn't enough rain, or there was too much rain. I think the reality is we don't understand what life's on the, you know, life is like on the farm unless you've been on the farm, do we?
And I guess too, a lot of farmers come into it early, in their teens or in their early 20s, have massive mortgages,
massive debt,
and you know, be pretty
and
tough.
it's only at the other end, of course, you sell the farm and, you know, you set up, but that's a whole lifetime's worth of work, isn't it? We've got nothing but respect for the farmers. You look at the dairy industry in this country, hey? The reason we are successful at the moment is because of the dairy industry in this country.
No bias here from me.
No.